The autumn winds swept through the streets of Chicago with a bite that promised winter was coming early. Mia Brooks clutched her worn portfolio against her chest as she hurried down Michigan Avenue, her sneakers splashing through shallow puddles left by the morning rain. She was already 15 minutes late for the interview that could change everything. At 24, Mia had spent the last 3 years working double shifts at the Daily Grind coffee shop while finishing her degree in graphic design. Every penny she earned went toward tuition, rent for the tiny studio apartment she shared with 2 roommates, and art supplies. Her parents back in rural Wisconsin had done everything they could to support her dreams. But their dairy farm barely broke even most years. This internship at Catalyst Digital, one of Chicago's fastest-growing tech companies, represented everything she had worked toward. Mia touched her phone again as she rounded the corner of the glass and steel tower that housed Catalyst Digital. 2 minutes. She could still make it if she ran. She pushed through the revolving doors of a neighboring building, planning to cut through to save time. And that was when it happened. She collided with a wall of expensive suit and solid muscle. The impact sent her stumbling backward, and the coffee cup she had been carrying, a last-minute energy boost, flew from her hand in a perfect arc. Time seemed to slow as she watched the dark liquid splash across the crisp white shirt of the man she had just crashed into. Oh no. "Oh no, I am so sorry," Mia gasped, her hands instinctively reaching out to try to brush away the coffee, only to make the stain worse. The man stood perfectly still, looking down at his ruined shirt with an expression that was impossible to read. He was tall, probably in his early 30s, with sharp features that seemed carved from marble. His dark hair was styled with precision, and his eyes were an unusual shade of gray-green that reminded Mia of storm clouds over Lake Michigan. Everything about him screamed money and power, from his Italian leather shoes to the watch on his wrist that probably cost more than her entire education. "I'm so sorry," Mia repeated, feeling her face burn with embarrassment. "I'll pay for the dry cleaning. I'll buy you a new shirt." "I wasn't looking where I was going." Julian Hart looked at the young woman who had just destroyed his $1,500 shirt. He had been on his way to a breakfast meeting with investors, his mind occupied with quarterly projections and expansion strategies. The last thing he expected was to be drenched in coffee by someone who clearly had no idea who he was. That alone was refreshing. Most people in Chicago's business district recognized Julian Hart on sight. At 32, he had built Catalyst Digital from a college startup into a company worth $300 million. His face had been on the cover of Forbes twice. Women threw themselves at him at every social event. Men either wanted to be him or wanted something from him. But this girl, with her paint-splattered jeans and oversized cardigan, was looking at him like he was just another person she had inconvenienced. Her brown eyes were wide with genuine distress, and she was actually offering to pay for his shirt. The idea was almost amusing. "A new shirt?" Julian repeated, his voice deeper than Mia expected. "Yes, absolutely. It might take me a few months to save up, but I promise I will." Mia fumbled in her bag for something to write on. "If you give me your contact information, I can send you payments. Or maybe I could work it off somehow. Do you need graphic design work? I'm actually pretty good, even though I'm still finishing school." Julian found himself fighting back a smile. When was the last time someone had offered to work off a debt to him in installments? "You're a graphic designer?" "Well, almost. I graduate in May, but I've done freelance work and I have a portfolio." She held up the battered folder she had been carrying. "I'm actually on my way to an interview right now, which is why I was running, which is why I wasn't paying attention." "I'm making this worse, aren't I?" "You're definitely making an impression," Julian said. He studied her for a moment longer, making a decision that surprised even himself. "I have a better idea. You can repay me with dinner." Mia blinked. Dinner. Friday night. 8 o'clock. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a business card, holding it out to her. "Call my assistant," and she arranged the details. Mia took the card with trembling fingers, reading the name printed there. Julian Hart, CEO, Catalyst Digital. Her heart stopped. This was the Julian Hart, the man whose company she was about to interview with. The man who had built an empire before he was 35. The man whose coffee-stained shirt probably cost more than her monthly rent. "You're Julian Hart," she whispered. And you are? He tilted his head, genuinely curious. Mia Brooks. She looked down at the card, then back up at him. I have an interview at Catalyst Digital in about 90 seconds. For the first time, Julian's expression shifted into something that might have been amusement. Then you should probably stop talking to me and start running. The HR director hates it when candidates are late. Mia nodded, still too shocked to form coherent thoughts. She backed away slowly, nearly tripping over her own feet. Friday, 8 o'clock. I'll call your assistant. I'll be expecting you, Julian said. He watched as she turned and sprinted toward the entrance of his building, her portfolio clutched under her arm. He looked down at his ruined shirt and shook his head. His assistant was going to have questions when he walked into the office like this. But something about the encounter had shifted his entire morning. For the first time in months, maybe years, he felt genuinely curious about something other than profit margins and market share. There was something authentic about Mia Brooks. Something real in a world that often felt plastic and manufactured. Julian pulled out his phone and sent a quick text to his head of HR. Interview candidate Mia Brooks today. Send me her file after the interview. Don't mention, I asked. He had built his company by trusting his instincts, and right now, his instincts were telling him that the girl who had spilled coffee on him was going to be more important than either of them realized. Mia burst through the doors of Catalyst Digital with 30 seconds to spare. The lobby was stunning, all glass and chrome with living walls of plants and water features that created a sense of calm. She gave her name to the receptionist, who directed her to the 11th floor. In the elevator, Mia tried to calm her racing heart. She had just met Julian Hart. She had ruined his shirt. He had asked her to dinner. None of this made any sense. Men like Julian Hart didn't ask women like her to dinner. They lived in completely different worlds, but she had agreed. And now she had both an interview and a dinner date with one of the most powerful men in Chicago. Hanging over her head, the elevator doors opened to reveal a modern office space filled with young, energetic people working at standing desks and collaborating in glass conference rooms. A woman in her 40s approached with a warm smile. Mia Brooks. I'm Jennifer Wong, head of human resources. Welcome to Catalyst Digital. Mia shook her hand, trying to project confidence she didn't feel. Thank you for seeing me. I apologize for cutting it so close with the time. These things happen, Jennifer said kindly. Let's head to the conference room and we can talk about the position. The interview went better than Mia dared to hope. Jennifer asked thoughtful questions about her design philosophy and her portfolio. They discussed her favorite projects and her thoughts on user experience design. For 40 minutes, Mia forgot about the awkward encounter outside and simply talked about the things she loved most, creating visual stories that connected with people. Your work is really impressive, Jennifer said, closing Mia's portfolio. I particularly love this series you did for the literacy nonprofit. You managed to convey so much emotion with such clean, simple design.
Thank you.
That project meant a lot to me personally. My mom struggled with reading when she was young, so literacy programs have always been close to my heart. Jennifer made a note on her tablet. We value that kind of personal connection to work here. Catalyst Digital isn't just about creating products. We're about creating experiences that matter to people's lives. Mia nodded, feeling a spark of hope. This was exactly the kind of place she wanted to work. I'm going to be honest with you, Mia, Jennifer continued. We have 3 other candidates for this position, all with impressive credentials. But there's something about your work that stands out. It has heart. I appreciate that more than you know, Mia said softly. I'll be in touch by Monday with our decision. But between you and me? Jennifer leaned forward slightly. I think you have a real shot. As Mia left the building 20 minutes later, her head was spinning. The interview had gone well, maybe even really well. But overshadowing everything was the memory of Julian Hart's storm gray eyes and his unexpected dinner invitation. She pulled out his business card and stared at it. This was insane. She should cancel. There was no way a dinner with Julian Hart would end in anything other than humiliation. They had nothing in common. He lived in penthouses, and she lived in a converted attic with 2 other people. He wore shirts that cost more than her car. She bought her clothes from thrift stores, but something about the way he had looked at her, like she was a puzzle he wanted to solve rather than an annoyance to be dismissed, made her hesitate. Mia pulled out her phone and dialed the number on the card before she could change her mind. Julian Hart's office. This is Patricia speaking.
Hi.
My name is Mia Brooks. Mr. Hart told me to call about dinner on Friday. There was a brief pause, then Patricia's voice returned, warmer and slightly amused. Ah, yes, Miss Brooks. Mr. Hart mentioned you might be calling. He's asked me to make a reservation for 2 at Aurelius at 8 o'clock. Do you know where that is? Mia's stomach dropped. Aurelius was one of the most expensive restaurants in Chicago. She had seen articles about it in magazines. People waited months for reservations. I can find it, she managed to say. Wonderful. The reservation is under Mr. Hart's name. Is there anything else you need? No, that's everything. Thank you. Mia hung up and stood on the sidewalk, staring at her phone. What had she just agreed to? She had nothing appropriate to wear to a place like Aurelius. She would probably use the wrong fork, or say something stupid or spill something else on Julian Hart. But she had given her word, and if there was one thing her parents had taught her, it was that a person's word mattered. Friday night, she told herself. She had 4 days to prepare for whatever was coming. For days to figure out how a girl from rural Wisconsin was going to have dinner with a billionaire without making a complete fool of herself as she walked toward the train station. Mia couldn't shake the feeling that her life had just changed in ways she couldn't yet understand. The collision on Michigan Avenue had been an accident, but somehow it felt like the beginning of something inevitable. Friday evening arrived faster than Mia wanted. She stood in front of the full-length mirror in her roommate's bedroom, barely recognizing herself. Her roommate Jessica had insisted on lending her a black dress that actually fit properly, and her other roommate Lauren had done her makeup with a skill that transformed Mia's usual natural look into something elegant and sophisticated. You look amazing, Jessica said, adjusting the thin silver necklace she had clasped around Mia's neck, like you actually belong at a place like Aurelius. I don't belong there, Mia said quietly, her stomach churning with anxiety. I don't know what I was thinking, agreeing to this. You were thinking that a gorgeous billionaire asked you to dinner? Lauren said, applying a final touch of lipstick to Mia's lips. Stop overthinking it. Maybe he just wants to get to know you. Or maybe he's testing me somehow, Mia countered. What if this is some kind of power play? Rich people do that, don't they? Jessica squeezed her shoulder. Then you'll handle it with the same grace you handle everything else. You're stronger than you think, Mia. The taxi ride to Aurelius cost more than Mia wanted to think about, eating into the emergency fund she kept for unexpected expenses. The restaurant was located in a historic building in the Gold Coast neighborhood, its exterior understated but elegant. A doorman in a pristine uniform opened the door for her. Mia stepped into a world that felt like it belonged in a movie. The interior was breathtaking. Soft lighting from crystal chandeliers created an amber glow across tables draped in white linen. Fresh flowers adorned every surface, their scent mixing with the aroma of expensive wine and gourmet cuisine. Every person she saw was dressed impeccably, speaking in low, cultured tones. Good evening, miss, the hostess said with a warm smile. Do you have a reservation? I'm meeting Julian Hart, Mia said, her voice barely above a whisper. The hostess's expression shifted slightly, becoming more attentive. Of course, Mr. Hart is already here. Please follow me. Mia was led through the main dining room to a more private section, near floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city lights. And there he was. Julian stood as she approached, and Mia's breath caught. He wore a charcoal suit with no tie, the top button of his white shirt undone, making him look somehow more approachable than he had in his coffee-stained formal wear. Mia, he said, and the way he spoke her name sent an unexpected shiver down her spine. You look beautiful. Thank you, she managed, allowing him to pull out her chair. This place is incredible. I thought you might like it, Julian said, settling back into his own seat. How did the interview go? Mia smiled genuinely for the first time that evening. Really well, actually. Jennifer was wonderful. She said she'd let me know by Monday. Jennifer is one of the best, Julian agreed. His gray-green eyes studied her with an intensity that made Mia's heart race. She has excellent instincts about people. A waiter appeared with menus, and Mia tried not to gasp at the prices. The cheapest entree cost more than she made in a week at the daily grind. "Order whatever you want," Julian said, as if reading her mind. "This is my apology for being so cryptic about the dinner invitation." "I thought I was the one apologizing," Mia said. "You know, for the shirt was just an excuse," Julian admitted. "I wanted to see you again." Mia looked up from her menu, surprised by his honesty. "Why?" Julian leaned back, considering the question. "Because in the 30 seconds we talked, you treated me like a person, not a business opportunity or a status symbol. Do you know how rare that is in my world?" "I didn't know who you were," Mia pointed out. "Exactly." Julian's smile was genuine, reaching his eyes in a way that transformed his usually serious face. "Tell me about yourself, Mia Brooks. Not your resume, you." Over the next 2 hours, Mia found herself opening up in ways she never expected. She told Julian about growing up on the farm, about watching her parents work themselves to exhaustion every day. She talked about discovering design in a high school art class and realizing she could create worlds with color and form. She described the guilty feeling of leaving Wisconsin, knowing her parents would have to work harder without her help, but also knowing she needed to chase her own dreams. Julian listened with complete attention, asking thoughtful questions and sharing his own story in return. He spoke about the pressure of inheriting his father's tech company at 25 after his father's sudden death, how he had felt trapped by expectations, forced to be the responsible leader when all he wanted was to innovate and create, how loneliness and success seemed to be inseparable in his world. "Everyone wants something from me," Julian said, swirling the wine in his glass. "Business connections, investments, introductions to other wealthy people. After a while, you stop trusting anyone's motives." "That sounds exhausting," Mia said softly. "It is." Julian met her eyes, which is why this evening has been the most genuine conversation I've had in years. Mia felt heat rise to her cheeks. There was something happening between them, something that went beyond the obvious differences in their circumstances. A connection she couldn't explain, but couldn't deny, as they shared dessert. A rich chocolate creation that melted on Mia's tongue. Julian's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and frowned. "I'm sorry, I have to take this," he said, standing. "It's about a deal closing tonight. I'll just be a moment." While he was gone, Mia allowed herself to look around the restaurant, really taking it in. This was Julian's world, a world of privilege and refinement that she would never truly be part of, no matter how well a borrowed dress fit. Mia Brooks. She turned to find a woman standing beside her table. She was stunning, probably in her late 20s, with sleek blonde hair and a dress that probably cost thousands of dollars. Her smile was polite, but her eyes were assessing, calculating. Mia said uncertainly, "I'm Rebecca Chen. I work with Julian." She extended a perfectly manicured hand. "I couldn't help but notice you two together. Are you the new client he mentioned?" "No, I'm just someone he invited to dinner." Rebecca's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. "How lovely. Julian doesn't usually mix business with pleasure. So you must be special." There was something in her tone that made Mia uncomfortable. But before she could respond, Julian returned. "Rebecca," he said, his voice cooler than it had been all evening. "I didn't realize you'd be here tonight." "Last-minute dinner meeting," Rebecca said smoothly. "I was just introducing myself to your companion. Mia, this is Rebecca Chen, my former business partner." Rebecca, Mia, is a friend. The emphasis on former wasn't lost on anyone. Rebecca's smile became even more strained. "Well, I'll leave you two to your evening," she said. "Julian, we should talk about the Anderson merger next week. Call me." After she left, Julian sat down heavily. "I apologize for that. She seems to know you well," Mia observed carefully. "We dated briefly last year," Julian admitted. "It ended when I discovered she had leaked confidential information about Catalyst to a competitor. She wanted to force a merger that would have benefited her family's investment firm." Mia's eyes widened. "That's terrible. It's taught me to be more careful about who I trust." Julian reached across the table, his hand covering hers. The warmth of his touch sent electricity through Mia's entire body. "Which is why what we have, this honesty between us, it matters to me." Monday morning arrived with an email that made Mia scream so loudly her roommates came running. She had gotten the internship. She was officially part of Catalyst Digital's design team, starting the following week. Her elation lasted exactly 3 days, until her first day at the office when she realized the full complexity of her situation. Julian was not just the CEO of the company. He was directly involved in the projects the design team worked on, which meant she would be seeing him regularly, working with him, trying to maintain professionalism while remembering how his hand had felt on hers at dinner. Her supervisor, a creative director named Thomas Reed, seemed kind but intense. On her first day, he gathered the design team for a briefing on their biggest project, a complete rebrand of Catalyst Digital's user interface. "This is the company's most important initiative this year," Thomas explained. "Mr. Hart himself will be reviewing our work weekly. We need innovative thinking, fresh perspectives. That's why we brought in new talent." He looked directly at Mia, and she felt 6 pairs of eyes turned to her. Over the next few weeks, Mia threw herself into the work. She arrived early, stayed late, and poured every ounce of creativity into her designs. The rest of the team was talented but set in their ways, reluctant to take risks. Mia found herself pushing boundaries, suggesting bold color choices and unconventional layouts that made Thomas nervous but excited. Julian attended every weekly review, and Mia found it nearly impossible to concentrate when he was in the room. He would sit at the head of the conference table, his attention focused completely on the work being presented. When it was Mia's turn to show her designs, his eyes would meet hers, and she would see something there had nothing to do with business. After one particularly intense review, where Mia had presented a radical redesign of the company's main dashboard, Julian asked her to stay behind. "Your work is exceptional," he said once they were alone. "That design you showed today, it's exactly the kind of innovation we need." "Thank you," Mia said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I was worried it might be too different. Different is good." Julian moved closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne, subtle and expensive. "Mia, we should talk about what's happening here." "Nothing is happening here," Mia said quickly. "You're my boss. I'm an intern. That's all. Is it?" Julian's voice was low, intimate. "Because I can't stop thinking about you. And I think you feel it too." Mia's heart hammered in her chest. "Julian, I can't. If people find out, they'll think I got this internship because of you, not because of my work. Everything I accomplish here will be questioned." "I would never let that happen," Julian said fiercely. "You can't control what people think," Mia countered. "I've worked too hard to have my reputation destroyed before my career even starts." Julian stepped back, running a hand through his hair in frustration. "You're right. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have put you in this position. We can be professional," Mia said, though her voice wavered. "We can work together without it being complicated." But they both knew she was wrong. The complications began subtly. Rebecca Chen started appearing at the office more frequently, always with some business matter that required Julian's immediate attention. She was polite to Mia in public, but found ways to undermine her work in small, insidious ways. During team meetings, Rebecca would ask pointed questions about Mia's design choices, framing them as concerns about commercial viability. She would casually mention other designers with more experience, planting seeds of doubt about whether an intern should be given so much responsibility on such an important project. "I'm just looking out for the company's interests," Rebecca said during one particularly tense meeting. "Mia's designs are certainly creative, but are they practical? Can they scale? These are questions we need to ask." Thomas looked uncomfortable but nodded. "Rebecca makes valid points. Mia, can you prepare some additional mock-ups showing how these designs would work across different platforms?" "Of course," Mia said through gritted teeth. She worked through the weekend, creating dozens of variations and detailed implementation plans. When she presented them on Monday, even Rebecca couldn't find fault. Though she tried, but the real blow came from an unexpected direction. Mia was working late on a Thursday evening, the office nearly empty, when she overheard voices coming from the conference room. One was Julian's. The other belonged to a man she didn't recognize. "You need to be careful with this girl," the unknown voice said. "The press is already starting to notice." Tech CEO's mystery dinner companion was the headline in Chicago Business Journal last week. "You know how this looks?" "I don't care how it looks," Julian replied, his voice tight with anger. "You should care. Your board cares. Rebecca's father has been calling members expressing concerns about your judgment. If this turns into a scandal, it could affect the IPO we've been planning." "So what are you suggesting, Stephen? That I fire her?" "I'm suggesting you keep your distance, at least until after the IPO. Then you can date whoever you want." Okay. Mia didn't wait to hear more. She grabbed her things and left, her vision blurred with tears. She had been fooling herself. This could never work. She and Julian came from different worlds, and those worlds were colliding in ways that could destroy both of them. The next morning, Mia arrived to find an envelope on her desk. Inside was a formal invitation to the company's annual gala, being held at the Four Seasons in 2 weeks. It was the event where Catalyst Digital would announce its plans to go public. A major milestone for the company. At the bottom of the invitation, in handwriting she recognized as Julian's, was a note, "Please come. We need to talk. Jay." Mia stared at the invitation for a long time. Every logical part of her brain said to decline, to maintain the distance that was necessary for both their sakes. But her heart, foolish and hopeful, whispered something different. The night of the gala arrived cold and clear. Mia had spent nearly all her savings on a dress, a deep emerald green that made her brown eyes look almost golden. She told herself she was investing in her professional future, that appearances mattered in the corporate world. But she knew the truth. She wanted Julian to see her and remember why he had asked her to dinner that. First night, the ballroom of the Four Seasons was transformed into something magical. Ice sculptures gleamed under soft lighting, and a string quartet played in one corner. Mia recognized faces from magazine covers and news broadcasts. This was power and wealth on full display. She found Julian near the bar, surrounded by a group of men in expensive suits. He was laughing at something someone said, playing the role of confident CEO perfectly. But when his eyes found hers across the room, everything else seemed to fall away. He excused himself and made his way to her, his eyes never leaving her face. "You came," he said softly. "You asked me to," Mia replied. "Come with me," Julian said, taking her hand. "There's something I need to show you." He led her through the crowd, nodding to people but not stopping until they reached a quieter corridor. He opened a door that led to a balcony overlooking the city. The Chicago skyline spread out before them like a carpet of lights. "Mia, I've been thinking about what you said," Julian began. "About how being with me could hurt your career, could make people question your abilities." "Julian, please don't," Mia said, her voice breaking. "I know what you're going to say." "You don't," he interrupted. "Because I'm not saying goodbye. I'm saying I've been a coward." Mia looked up at him, confused. "I've spent so much of my life worried about what people think, about protecting my reputation and the company's image," Julian continued. "But when I'm with you, none of that matters." "You make me want to be brave?" "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I don't care about the board's concerns, or what the press writes, or what Rebecca and her father think. I care about you. And if the price of being with you is some bad publicity or difficult conversations with investors, then that's a price I'm willing to pay." "Julian, you could lose everything," Mia whispered. "I've already lost the most important thing," Julian said, his hand coming up to cup her face gently. "I lost my authenticity. I became so focused on success that I forgot what I was succeeding for. You reminded me that life is supposed to be about more than quarterly reports and stock prices." "I don't want to be the reason your company suffers," Mia said, even as she leaned into his touch. "You won't be. Catalyst Digital is strong because of the work we do, not because of my dating life. And anyone who can't see that your designs are brilliant on their own merit isn't someone whose opinion I value." "People will talk," Mia said. "Let them talk." Julian smiled. That rare, genuine smile that transformed his entire face. "I'm tired of living my life according to other people's scripts. I want to write my own story. With you, if you'll let me. Mia looked up at this man who had everything but was willing to risk it all for something real. In his eyes, she saw not just desire, but respect, admiration, and something deeper that made her heart soar. "Kiss me," she said. Julian didn't need to be asked twice. His lips met hers in a kiss that was everything their first dinner had promised. Gentle but passionate, questioning but sure. Mia felt like she was falling and flying at the same time, all her fears and doubts dissolving in the warmth of his embrace. When they finally pulled apart, both breathless, Julian rested his forehead against hers. "There's something else," he said. "Tomorrow morning I'm holding a press conference to announce the IPO. I want you there, standing beside me. Not as my employee, but as the woman I'm proud to be with." "Julian, that's crazy," Mia said. But she was smiling. "Probably," he agreed. "But I'm done hiding what matters most. So what do you say, Mia Brooks? Are you brave enough to stand with me?" Mia thought about her journey. The small-town girl who had dreamed of something bigger, the student who had worked double shifts to afford her education, the woman who had spilled coffee on a billionaire and somehow found love in the collision. "Yes," she said. "I'm brave enough." They returned to the gala hand in hand, and Mia felt every eye in the room turn toward them. She saw Rebecca's shocked expression, heard the whispers starting to spread. But she also saw Thomas give her a small, approving nod, and Jennifer from HR smile warmly. Julian led her to the stage where he was scheduled to speak. When he took the microphone, the room fell silent. "Good evening, everyone," he began. "I'm here tonight to talk about Catalyst Digital's future, but first I want to talk about something more important. Over the past few months, I've been reminded what truly drives innovation. It's not money or market share. It's people who are brave enough to be authentic, to take risks, to believe in something bigger than themselves." He turned to look at Mia, his eyes full of warmth. "Mia Brooks, one of our talented new designers, embodies that spirit. Her work on our rebranding project has been nothing short of revolutionary, and I'm proud to announce that she'll be leading the design team for our new mobile platform." The applause was immediate, and Mia felt tears spring to her eyes. He hadn't just defended her. He had elevated her, given her an opportunity based purely on merit. "As for Catalyst Digital," Julian continued, "we're announcing our IPO next quarter. But more importantly, we're committing to a new company culture. One where innovation matters more than convention. Where talent is valued regardless of background, and where success is measured not just in profits, but in the positive impact we have on people's lives." The speech went on, detailing the company's plans and vision, but Mia barely heard it. She was too overwhelmed by what had just happened. By the public statement Julian had made about both her professional abilities and their personal connection. After the applause died down, Rebecca approached them. Her expression was carefully neutral. "That was quite a statement," she said to Julian. "It needed to be said," he replied calmly. Rebecca looked at Mia, and for a moment something like respect flickered in her eyes. "Your designs really are good," she admitted. "I was wrong to question them." "Thank you," Mia said, surprised. "Julian, I hope you know what you're doing," Rebecca added. "For the first time in years, I do," Julian said, his hand finding Mia's. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of congratulations and introductions. Mia met board members and investors, all of whom seemed genuinely interested in her work and her vision. Thomas pulled her aside to discuss the mobile platform project, his excitement palpable. "This is a huge opportunity," he said. "Are you ready for it?" "I think so," Mia said. "I'm definitely willing to try. It's all anyone can ask," Thomas smiled. "Welcome to the big leagues." As the gala wound down, Julian and Mia found themselves back on the balcony, alone under the stars. "Are you okay?" Julian asked. "I know tonight was a lot. I'm terrified," Mia admitted, "but also exhilarated. Is that normal?" "If it is, I'm right there with you," Julian said, pulling her close. "Mia, I know this won't be easy. There will be challenges, people who doubt us, obstacles we can't predict. But I want you to know that I'm all in, completely." "So am I," Mia said. standing on her toes to kiss him softly. "I don't know where this goes, but I want to find out." "Together," Julian said. "Together," Mia agreed. 6 months later, Mia stood in the newly opened Catalyst digital offices in the West Loop, admiring the wall of screens displaying her team's latest designs. The mobile platform had launched to critical acclaim, and her name was becoming recognized in the tech design community. Julian's arm came around her waist from behind, and she leaned back against him contentedly. "Proud of yourself," he murmured. "Getting there," Mia said with a smile. "How was the board meeting?" "It's smooth. The IPO exceeded all expectations, and your platform is being credited as one of the key drivers of our increased valuation." "Our platform," Mia corrected. "It took a whole team." "It's always so modest," Julian said, kissing the top of her head. "It's one of the many things I love about you." Mia turned in his arms, her heart still skipping when he used the word love. They hadn't said it often yet, both of them careful with such weighty declarations, but every time felt like a gift. "I love you too," she said, reaching up to touch his face. "Thank you for being brave enough to take a chance on a girl who spilled coffee on you." "Best coffee stain of my life," Julian said, making her laugh as they stood there, overlooking the city that had brought them together. Mia thought about how much had changed since that rainy day on Michigan Avenue. She had found not just love but herself, her strength, her voice, her place in a world that had once seemed impossibly far away. The collision that had started everything hadn't been an accident at all, realized. It had been the universe's way of bringing together two people who needed each other, who made each other better, who were brave enough to choose love over fear, and that, Mia thought as Julian kissed her again, was the best kind of story to be part of. Thank you for taking Thed time to listen to this story. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to hit like, share this story with your friends and family, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more meaningful stories.